What happened to you?
I think I don't want to remember this moment.
It's like you've all lost your fucking minds.
Buddy, I'm in a little bit of trouble. I feel like you're gonna hit me.
I fucking want to.
In Euphoria Season 3, Episode 7 official trailer, the dark and relentless spiral of trauma reaches its absolute breaking point as Rue fights through the suffocating weight of redemption while desperately clinging to a fragile hope for a brighter future. Trust is permanently shattered, and explosive betrayals fully collide when a dangerous plan to escape to Mexico backfires completely, trapping everyone in a high-stakes web of law enforcement handcuffs and imminent disaster. Long-hidden, toxic secrets are forced directly into the blinding light as devastating confrontations explode, proving that everyone has completely lost their minds as they face a brutal reckoning from which no one will ever escape unscarred. There is a version of this season where things could have gone differently for Rue, a version where the DEA never pulled her in, where Alamo never clocked that something was off, where she could have just quietly found her way back to a normal life without the entire weight of a criminal empire pressing down on her chest. But that version doesn't exist. It never did. And Episode 7 of Euphoria Season 3 is making that painfully, undeniably clear. What this trailer is showing us is the moment where every single carefully placed domino that's been standing throughout this season finally begins to fall. And it's falling fast, and it's falling hard. Rue has spent the better part of this season walking the most dangerous tightrope that you could possibly imagine. On one side, you have Alamo, a man who was literally raised to never trust anyone, who bought a snake as a daily reminder that the thing you care for the most is the thing most capable of destroying you. And on the other side, you have the DEA, who have essentially handed Rue a lifeline that comes with an invisible chain attached to it. The problem is that Rue actually started believing she could balance on that rope without falling. And Episode 7 is the moment the rope snaps completely. Because here's the thing about Rue that this season has been building towards so carefully. She found God. She got on her knees in the desert in front of a burning bush, and she genuinely believed that she was being given a second chance. That the salvation she had been desperately searching for was actually within reach. And when you believe something that deeply, when you've been through the kind of darkness that Rue has been through, and you finally see a light at the end of it, you start making moves based on hope rather than logic. And hope in Euphoria has never once been free of consequence. Not for a single character, not for a single moment. The plan to escape to Mexico is the clearest example of exactly that. On the surface, it sounds like the kind of thing that could actually work. Get out, start over, leave everything behind before it all collapses. But the trailer is showing us that this plan doesn't just fail. It catastrophically and completely backfires in a way that drags everyone into the wreckage with it. We're talking about law enforcement getting involved at a level that goes far beyond what anyone was expecting. This isn't just Rue getting caught or a deal going sideways. This is the kind of situation where multiple lives are being altered permanently because of a single decision that was made out of desperation. And Rue is sitting right at the center of all of it. What makes this so difficult to watch is that Rue isn't a bad person making bad decisions for selfish reasons. She's a person who has been suffocating under the weight of her own trauma for so long that every move she makes is essentially a survival instinct. Working with the DEA wasn't ambition, it was survival. Getting close to Alamo wasn't recklessness, it was survival. And this plan to get out and escape to Mexico isn't stupidity. It is survival. The tragedy of Rue's entire arc this season is that every single thing she has done has come from a place of genuinely trying to get out of the dark. And the show keeps proving over and over again that the dark doesn't let you leave that easily. Alamo has known. That's the part that the trailer is hammering home in a way that is genuinely chilling. He has known for a while now that something about Rue doesn't add up. The talk of rats and snakes in the previous episode wasn't accidental, and it wasn't subtle. That was Alamo communicating, in his own way, that he has already figured out what Rue is doing. The man learned his entire worldview from watching his mother con a good man out of everything he had. He's been reading Rue the entire time she thought she was playing him. And now, with Bishop reaching out to Rue's mother, the people that Rue loves most are being used as leverage in a game that she never fully understood the rules of. This is what makes the Mexico plan so devastating in context. Because if Alamo already knows, then that plan was never going to work regardless of how well it was executed. It was a trap walking into another trap. And the law enforcement angle that we're seeing in this trailer suggests that the DEA's involvement has either been exposed or has escalated in a direction that has made an already impossible situation completely uncontrollable. Rue isn't just caught between two dangerous sides anymore. She is buried underneath both of them simultaneously, with no visible way out. And yet she's still fighting. That's the thing about Rue that this show keeps coming back to. No matter how buried she gets, no matter how suffocating everything around her becomes, she does not stop. She found a burning bush in the desert, and she got on her knees and she chose to believe that meant something. That kind of faith, that kind of stubborn, relentless hope in someone who has every reason to have given up entirely is what makes her storyline the most emotionally devastating thing happening in this season. Because you're rooting for her so hard, while simultaneously watching everything around her tighten like a vice. But here's what this trailer is really asking you to sit with. If Alamo has already seen through Rue the same way his mother saw through Preston, and if Bishop is already using her mother as a pressure point, then what exactly does Rue have left to bargain with when everything finally explodes in episode 7? And more importantly, who is going to be left standing when it does? If Section 1 was about Rue being buried underneath the weight of two dangerous worlds colliding, then Section 2 is about everyone else getting pulled into the wreckage with her. Because what this trailer is making absolutely clear is that Episode 7 of Euphoria Season 3 is not just Rue's breaking point. It is everyone's breaking point. Simultaneously, all at once. And the collision of every single storyline that has been carefully simmering throughout this season is arriving at the exact same moment, which means that nobody is walking away from this episode without taking serious damage. Let's start with Cassie, because her situation heading into episode 7 is one of the most quietly catastrophic things happening in this entire season, and people are genuinely not talking about it enough. On the surface, Cassie's arc this season has looked like a success story. She found a way to monetize her image. She landed a recurring role on network television. She deleted her account and seemingly closed one chapter to open another. But the trailer for episode 7 is showing us that the chapter she thought she closed didn't actually close. It exploded. And the explosion is coming directly from the contract she signed with Maddie, without fully understanding what she was agreeing to. Here is the thing about that contract that this season has been building towards very deliberately. Cassie signed it at a moment when she felt like she and Maddie were genuinely rebuilding their friendship. There was warmth there. There was history. There was the feeling that after everything that happened with Nate and all of the betrayal and the years of damage, they were finally finding their way back to each other. And in that moment of emotional vulnerability and genuine hope, Cassie signed something that essentially handed Maddie legal control over her work and her image. She did it without a lawyer. She did it without reading the fine print. She did it because she trusted someone she loved. And that trust is about to cost her everything she has been working towards. Because the network television opportunity that Cassie fought for and earned, and genuinely wants more than almost anything else in her life right now, comes with one non-negotiable condition. The account has to go. The photos have to disappear. The version of herself that she was selling online has to be completely erased if she wants to step into the version of herself that she's always dreamed of being. And she did it. She pressed delete. She felt lighter than she expected. She thought that was the hard part. But the hard part hasn't even started yet, because Maddie didn't agree to any of that. Maddie holds a contract. And contracts don't care about dreams. What we're going to see in episode 7 is Maddie making it very clear to Cassie that deleting that account wasn't a decision that Cassie had the right to make unilaterally. The work that Cassie was producing under that arrangement wasn't just hers anymore the moment she put pen to paper. And Maddie, who has spent this entire season operating with the same calculated control that Alamo uses in his world, is not going to let that slide quietly. The confrontation between Maddie and Cassie in this episode is not going to be the kind of argument that two best friends have and then get over. This is the kind of confrontation that ends things permanently. Because it won't just be about the account or the contract. It will be about every single unresolved piece of damage that has been sitting between them since the moment Cassie chose Nate over Maddie all of those years ago. And that's what makes this so layered and so devastating to watch. On the outside, this looks like a business dispute. One person signed a contract, one person broke the terms of it, now there are consequences. But underneath that, this is two women who genuinely loved each other, and genuinely hurt each other, and genuinely tried to find their way back to something real. And now, watching that attempt completely collapse under the weight of money and control and ambition. Maddie isn't a villain in this story. She's a person who built something and protected it with a legal document because she learned from Alamo's world that protection is everything. But she's also a person who is about to weaponize that protection against someone she calls her best friend. And both of those things can be true at the exact same time. The trailer is also showing us something incredibly important about Cassie that goes beyond just the Maddie situation. Because receiving Nate's finger in that box at her apartment didn't just disturb her. It reawakened something in her that she has been desperately trying to bury. Cassie still loves Nate. Not in a healthy way, not in a way that makes any logical sense given everything he put her through, but in that deep, irrational, bone-level way that doesn't respond to logic or self-preservation. And with Nate now in serious physical danger, with pieces of him literally being delivered to her door as a message, Cassie is being pulled back into his orbit at the exact worst possible moment. When she is already legally trapped by Maddie's contract, professionally on the line with the network opportunity, and emotionally completely exposed, the last thing she needs is Nate Jacobs pulling her focus back towards him. But that's exactly what's happening. This is the cost that was always waiting for her, all the way back to when she first chose Nate over Maddie. There was a price attached to that decision. The show has been slowly presenting that bill ever since, and episode 7 is when it all comes due at once. The network deal, the contract, the Nate situation, the Maddie confrontation, every single thread of Cassie's storyline is converging in this episode, and none of them are converging gently. She is about to find out what it actually costs to want everything at the same time without being willing to sacrifice the right things to get there. Now let's talk about the betrayals, because the trailer for episode 7 is making it very clear that this is the episode where the long-hidden secrets that have been quietly poisoning every single relationship in this season are finally being dragged out into the open. And when they come out, they don't come out carefully or privately or with any kind of grace. They explode. Loudly, publicly, and with the kind of devastating force that permanently changes how people see each other. The trust structure in this season of Euphoria has always been completely rotten at its foundation. Every single alliance that exists between these characters is built on some version of deception.